Who is to blame for Diamondbacks' lack of postseason baseball? Is it Torey Lovullo? Is it Mike Hazen? Is it both?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, the show where we talk nothing but the Diamondbacks Monday through Friday. And thank you so much for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen of the day. My name is Danon Biggs, and I am your host. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Today, we have a lot to talk about because yesterday's episode, we talked about Torey Lovullo, what his record looked like, and we had reported, in case you didn't know, that he will be continuing as the manager for the Diamondbacks in 2026, which his contract goes until the end of 2026. But as you and I know, manager contracts don't mean a ton, so they are that he was definitely on the hot seat, and I think still is. And in the hours and days after this announcement, there's been a lot of talk about what is happening moving forward, and specifically in a press conference with Hazen and Torey Lovullo, there was a lot of discussion. Hazen, who is the general manager for the Diamondbacks, in case you didn't know, he really kind of took a lot of the blame and was like, "Oh yeah, no, I traded away the whole team. I didn't give Torey a bunch of, enough players. I didn't give him much to work with, and he still made a playoff run." So he really took a lot of the brunt of the blame for that, and then Lovullo kind of came back and was like, "No, listen, it's a hard thing to get right." And so we're going to talk a bit about that today. And I wanted to highlight a comment, which, by the way, you guys, please, thank you for commenting on the videos. I that's my favorite part, is interacting with you guys, because just talking to a camera and into a microphone is not the funnest thing in the world. Well, it's fun because I like to talk, and that's but I talk anyway. What's fun is to listen and to hear what you guys have to say. So commenting on the YouTube videos is the best way to reach me and let me know your thoughts. So please do leave me your thoughts. After yesterday's episode, we had a comment from Leaf in a Gust, which is a cool name. It says, "Thank goodness I love Torey. He's awesome. I don't know about Hazen, though." So Leaf was very happy to see that Torey Lovullo will be staying. Not all of you, I should point out, who felt the same way. And I know that, for example, Scott does not like the idea of going with Torey Lovullo. And so Scott, hashtag flush Lovullo. And I saw Scott, by the way, if you're listening, I saw your comment on a couple other YouTube channels talking about this. So I'm watching a lot of, Arizona sports and the Phoenix Diamondbacks show, and then I see a familiar person with a familiar hashtag. So you're getting the word out there. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I respect you for getting it out there. So good job, Scott. Anyway, once again, please leave your thoughts in the comments. I absolutely would love to hear it, because we have a lot of kind of controversial things to talk about today with Mike Hazen. Yesterday was the Lovullo episode. Today is going to mainly be the Mike Hazen episode. So let's take a step back. Torey Lovullo is the manager. He is the one that runs the team once the game starts, and he's the one that has the final call, and he's kind of the locker room head. He heads up the attitude and the culture of the team. In the past, the manager was also kind of more responsible for, deciding which players were going to play in any given game, coming up with a roster, the who was going to pitch, all that kind of stuff. With the Diamondbacks, and I think and for most teams in general, not all teams, but a lot of teams these days in the post Moneyball era, the manager kind of plays a part in deciding who's going to play in what given day and who's going to go up against certain matchups and everything. But Lovullo is, as he said in an interview 2 days ago, he said that he has a seat at the table, but he is not the one making the final call on those. He is making the final call in the actual games. So that is what the manager does. He's very personal with the players. He builds that relationship with the players. That's his job. The general manager, the GM, their responsibilities are more administrative and more on the back end. Specifically, the general manager is in charge of getting the roster put together, trading players. They're also in charge of personnel, so like coaches and staff and things like that. They're also, another thing they have to factor in is budget. I mean, baseball teams have a lot of money to work with, but when you're dealing with players that need millions and millions of dollars a year, that budget goes quick. So you have to be smart with how you use that budget. And then just long-term planning. So what is the team going to look like in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years from now? That's what the general manager is supposed to do. The manager is more of the here and now. And when the manager and the general manager are synced up, then that gives you, I think that creates a really good team and a really good duo that can both try and win in the short term and try and win in the long term, because oftentimes those do conflict. So, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But if you're talking about a general manager and a manager who are in sync, there's no better example than Mike Hazen and Torey Lovullo. They both came from Boston in 2016. Mike Hazen was the general manager. I didn't know this until actually researching this. He was the general manager for the Red Sox for the 2016 season, and he was in their organization for years before that, as was Torey Lovullo. Mike Hazen got the job, the general manager job for the Diamondbacks, and immediately hired Torey Lovullo as the new manager. So Hazen and Lovullo have been together since the beginning. I kind of joked, and I don't think it's really to this extent, but I've always joked that if they want to fire Lovullo, they have to fire Mike Hazen first, and then they won't have to fire Lovullo. He'll just leave. So the two of them are very, very close, which is good, but also it presents the problem. If Hazen needs to fire Lovullo, that's going to be tricky. That's going to be tough, but we're not quite there yet. So we are going to go through now all of Mike Hazen's, I guess, record with the Diamondbacks. We're gonna go year by year, kind of like we did yesterday with Torey Lovullo, and we're gonna see his major moves and kind of try to dissect together what that means. I'm not gonna give, and I'm not gonna give a definitive like this was good, this was bad, this was good, this was bad. That's where I want to hear from you guys. So based on what we kind of go over in this next segment, I want to hear from you guys, and I want to hear if you guys think, oh yeah, that move he made in 2018 ruined the Diamondbacks, or oh yeah, he started this way and now he's this way, or he lost his way here and now he's going this way. I want to hear that from you guys. So please do let me know. But before we get to that, we're going to take a quick little break. So please don't go anywhere. We will be right back. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. It can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Now, let's go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of everything. So, we're going to go through year by year since Hazen arrived here in the Valley, and we're just going to kind of touch on a handful of things that he did. Because again, Torey Lovullo is not responsible for the team that he is given. He's responsible for the game and for making the team that he's been given. He's responsible for making the most with the team that he's been given. That's really a good way to say it. And oftentimes that team is plagued by injury, which isn't something he can really control. They underperform, which always isn't something he can always control. And what a good general manager does is they have the depth in their roster so that when one guy comes out, there's another guy able to take his place. That's one reason, and I don't want to talk good about the Dodgers or anything, but the Dodgers have a very deep system where if Shohei Ohtani gets injured, they're not going to become a last place team all of a sudden. Whereas if Ketel Marte gets injured, the Diamondbacks are in pretty big trouble. Now, that's a pretty extreme example, but you get the idea. The Dodgers are plagued with injuries just as much as the Diamondbacks are, but they have the depth behind them. So the general manager, a good general manager, will make sure, will give the manager a good team to work with. And if and when, because that does happen, things don't work out according to plan, there's the depth that can make that up and give the manager as much to work with as possible. So I want to look at this and say, okay, the years that the Diamondbacks didn't do very well, was that the general manager's fault or was that the manager's fault? Understanding that obviously things just kind of happen, but you understand. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. So Mike Hazen, he hired Torey Lovullo for the 2017 season. That was kind of his first move. He acquired Taijuan Walker and this little guy you might have heard of, Ketel Marte, before the season. And he claimed Christian Walker before the season. Christian Walker belonged to nobody. And he just grabbed him and said, okay, you're ours. He also, at the trade deadline, acquired JD Martinez. Now, in 2017, so he added Taijuan Walker, Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, and JD Martinez. He added a lot to the team. They ended up making the wild card that year and went to the playoffs. And a big part of that is, I think, because of Torey Lovullo and because he was able to change things up and everything worked out really well for him there. So I think this was a great move on Lovullo, or this looks great on Lovullo's record. He won Manager of the Year. He did great. What this did do, though, is this did deplete a lot of our farm. Because in trading for JD Martinez, we traded a lot of our prospects away. And when trading for Marte and Taijuan Walker, we traded a lot of people. So that did hurt us there. But we made the playoffs. Let's build on this, right? Well, in 2018, we acquired Eduardo Escobar, John Jay, and Brad Ziegler. 3 good players. John Jay, that kind of more, I don't know if you remember, but he was a bit more of he's the veteran who kind of added some maturity to the team, and the team did great. Oh, and by the way, this was all in the summer of 2018. So the team started out amazing. They went into the All-Star break doing great. They kind of fumbled a little bit after the All-Star break, but we're still doing pretty good. And then August and September, they had their monumental collapse. Hazen did make moves in 2018 to strengthen the bullpen. However, the bullpen is kind of one of the major factors that lost us that season. So we ended up missing the playoffs in 2018. I don't see that. And again, I want to hear from you guys, but I don't see that as necessarily either Mike Hazen or Torey Lovullo completely dropping the ball. If anything, maybe, and I remember feeling this at the time, and I feel like they've come back and kind of learned from this, is this felt like a real situation of burnout, at least at the time. Because you had like Archie Bradley, who was doing amazing all year and then just fell off a cliff. And you had Goldschmidt, and you had all these big, these hitters that were delivering on offense and then just stopped all at once. So that's kind of what it felt like. So I guess that would kind of be a manager thing, but at the same time, it sounds like Lovullo, I'm sure it was probably similar back then as it is now, probably wasn't the only one making that decision. So in 2019, Mike Hazen signed from the Korean baseball organization, the Korean League, a young pitcher named Merrill Kelly. But he also traded Paul Goldschmidt for Luke Weaver, Carson Kelly, and Andy Young before the season started. Now, that didn't really work out for us. Carson Kelly was pretty okay, and we were going to be, Goldschmidt's contract was coming up, but that definitely didn't work out super great. And then at the trade deadline, we traded Zach Greinke for Josh Rojas and 3 other prospects that I've never heard of. And I looked them up, and I had no idea who they were. However, this was also in part to cut payroll costs. So Goldschmidt and Greinke were taking a big chunk of the payroll. And so this was to kind of slough that off a little bit. Also, by the time by the time the trade deadline came around, we were not competing. We weren't really showing much promise. So it wasn't a big deal to say, okay, well, Greinke, his contract is running out. Let's go ahead and see what we can get for him. Another one, though, is we acquired Zach Gallen from the Marlins at the trade deadline, trading Jazz Chisholm, who was, I always forget about this. He was like our top prospect. Jazz Chisholm was a Diamondback. Like, he was getting ready to be, a Diamondback. And so that one, I really specifically would love to hear from you guys, because I'm not 100% sure where I stand on that one. Who would have been better, Zach Gallen or Jazz Chisholm? But Zach Gallen definitely made a big impact on the team immediately, and in 2023, as we know. And we were competitive at the end of 2019, in big part because of Zach Gallen. And so we didn't end up making the playoffs, but Zach Gallen was a surprise shot in the arm for the team. Now, 2020, which was a great year. Everybody loved 2020, the year. We signed Madison Bumgarner and Cole Calhoun before the season started. I'm not going to do theatrics or anything. Madison Bumgarner was a terrible sign. He was fine in 2020. He had his unofficial no-hitter in 2020. He had strokes of greatness here and there. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He's he had a fantastic career, but signing him, giving him as much money as they did, and him just not showing up, just not playing at all what we needed him, that ended up being a very bad sign. Very bad signing for Hazen. Definitely not a good one on his record. Cole Calhoun, I liked him, so I included him on there. That was a good one. But another thing is he drafted this new guy in the first round named Corbin Carroll. So we'll see if that works out. He re-signed David Peralta, which was definitely, he's a fan favorite and was consistent. He wasn't like incredible, but he was good, and I really liked him. He traded Starling Marte, who wasn't performing super great at the deadline, for 3 players that I had never heard of. He traded Archie Bradley, who wasn't doing super well either, but he was, our homegrown top prospect at one point, our first round pick guy, and he was a fan favorite as well. Traded him for 2 outfielders at the deadline, and he got rid of Robbie Ray at the deadline. Basically just said, here, somebody take Robbie Ray. We'll even pay for his contract. Just take him, because he was performing so poorly. And luckily for Robbie Ray, not for us, Robbie Ray, he was able to turn it around, and he's had a great career since. But at the time, he was on a sharp decline, and we kind of needed to just get rid of him at that point. So I don't fault Hazen for getting rid of Ray when he did. If anything, he should have traded Robbie Ray sooner, so we could have actually gotten something for him. I do remember 2020 being very frustrated with the fact that we could have gotten something for Robbie Ray, but we waited until he showed absolutely no promise, and then we still ended up like paying for his contract. So in the draft that offseason, Hazen drafted Jarvis, Sessione, Vukovic, and Brandon Font. So 4 players that we have seen or will be seeing pretty soon. Vukovic is one of our higher prospects in AAA, I believe. Let me double check that. But he has been doing very, very good lately, and we'll probably be seeing him very soon. So that's fun. That's exciting. So that one, probably a good draft year. At least, yeah, a good draft year indeed. In 2021, the seasons before it started, Mike Hazen signed a lot of 1-year contracts with some veteran players, kind of hoping to add some, stability to the team, but that really didn't go our way. It was just a bunch of people who were kind of past their prime, and their prime wasn't even like Madison Bumgarner level. It was just kind of fine. So that didn't really work out. We did trade for a few players at the deadline. We got JJ De Orazio. He's currently one of our AA prospects and is looking fairly well. And we also got a few now released prospects. So people who aren't even on the team anymore. So kind of a wash, but we do have JJ there, who maybe will become something here in a little bit. We also traded Eduardo Escobar at the deadline for 2 prospects that we later released as well. So didn't really work out for us there. That year, we were the worst team in baseball. So we didn't really sign anybody that year that would have helped us not be the worst team in baseball, but we kind of, at the trade deadline, we're like, okay, we're willing to part with Escobar. We want to keep everybody else and get as much as we can. And we had some players in development already. So I think that was probably the right move. But the fact that we got to that point definitely hurts Lovullo and Hazen's record for sure. In the 2021 draft, so the off season after that, being the worst team in baseball, we drafted Jordan Lawler and extended Merrill Kelly for 2 more years before the 2022 season. We traded at the deadline David Peralta for a minor league player named Christian Cerda, who is currently a catcher in our AA affiliate team and is developing. We'll see what happens from that. That might be a good one. That might kind of just be nothing, but that was how that one worked. And we ended up missing the playoffs in 2021, but did considerably better than we did the year before. Now, before 2023, kind of one of the bigger trades of Mike Hazen's career, he traded Dalton Varsho, who was one of our better outfielders, for Gabriel Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. And he did that before the 2023 season. I would also love to hear what you guys think about that one. I think that was a great trade. I think that's a really, really good call on Hazen. There's a good amount of risk there, but I think it worked out very well for us. He also drafted before the season Drew Jones, who's currently in development. This week won yesterday even, won the minor league the minor league defensive player of the year. So his offense he's still working on his offense, isn't quite there yet, but his defense is legendary. So that's very exciting, and excited to see him continue to develop as well. And then I lost my spot in my notes here, but that's okay. We also acquired Paul Sewald at the trade deadline and extended Torey Lovullo before the season was even over to 2026. So we were very happy with the way he was running the show that season, 2023, because we also ended up winning the National League championships. So that was definitely a good year for the Diamondbacks. The following year, we acquired Eugenio Suarez before this season. We re-signed Lourdes Gurriel Jr. We signed Eduardo Rodriguez, Jock Peterson, Randall Grichuk, and Jordan Montgomery before the season. We traded for Christian Mena, who was minor league at the time. And at the deadline, we traded for Puck, Bell, and Floro. And this season, we definitely, I remember going up to the All-Star break, we were a moderate team, probably a little worse than average. But going, and a lot of that was because of injuries and things like that and just underperforming. But after the All-Star break, we became the best team in baseball and everybody was terrified of us. And a lot of that is because of signing Josh Bell and AJ Puck, which Bell was a result of Christian Walker getting injured. So I think that is a great example of saying, hey, our star first baseman is injured, who, by the way, Mike Hazen, just kind of picked up out of the rubble. So good call there. Our first baseman's injured. Okay, well, let's call, let's get another guy. We got him. Okay. And Josh Bell ended up being very good for the team for that year. We improved on the season. We were better than we were in 2023. However, did not make the playoffs, as you guys probably know. And I don't need to bring that up again. Over the offseason, they drafted Slade Caldwell and Waldschmidt, who are two outfielders in the 2024 draft. We signed Corbin Burns to the biggest deal in Diamondbacks history. We did not perform very well leading up to the trade deadline. We're talking about this year, 2025. And a lot of that because of injuries and poor pitching and things like that. Corbin Burns, notably, soon got injured and was out for the next 2 years. So at the trade deadline, we sold Merrill Kelly, Eugenio Suarez, Josh Naylor, Randall Grichuk, Shelby Miller, and Jordan Montgomery, who I kind of had forgotten was still on the team at the time. So let's look at these. Most, if not all of these, were expiring contracts. We were going to be losing them at the end of the season anyway. And I think that this list of names, I think that this sell is going to go in Hazen's record book as a big positive. Of course, this is just speculating, so I very well could be wrong. But we got our current number 6, number 9, and number 15 prospect for Merrill Kelly. We got Locklear, who is, we forget, he's brand spanking new. He's still a prospect, even though he played a bunch of the season with us. We also got Burgos, who's a relief pitcher, and Cranton, who is our number 27 prospect. For Naylor, we got Brandon Garcia, who's shown to be very good in the bullpen. For Grichuk, we got Andrew Hoffman, who is another bullpen arm who shows a lot of promise. And for Shelby Miller and Jordan Montgomery, probably the best deal yet, they took Jordan Montgomery. And they even took a lot of his payroll. So wonderful. Anyway, that's where we're at right now. So I am curious to see how Hazen is going to handle this upcoming offseason. we are going to talk about in tomorrow's episode. We're going to talk about what our 2026 lineup looks like so far and where it needs to probably be bolstered and where it is probably fine. And I think that, but we know that from Ken Kendrick, who said a few days ago that the payroll is not going to be as big as it was this year. They're bringing the payroll down considerably, and so we're not gonna be signing a bunch of really big names. We're not gonna be making any $210 million contracts this offseason, but with a few right moves, I think Mike Hazen can put this team over the top by filling some holes that we need. And looking at his track record, which isn't perfect, I think that he is the kind of general manager who makes gambles, takes some risks, and I think has worked out fairly well. I mean, he got Marte, he got Christian Walker, he got JD Martinez, Eduardo Escobar, Brad Ziegler, Merrill Kelly. A lot of these guys aren't like when at the time they weren't like sure deals. He got Zach Gallen, who started, an all-star game, got us to the World Series. He drafted Corbin Carroll and Brandon Pfaadt and Jordan Lawler. Like, I think he's got good instincts. He makes mistakes, but he's got good instincts. Like, he'll trade Varsho for Moreno and Gurriel Jr. So I have faith in him. I trust him, but I want to hear what you guys think after going through all that. Has your mind changed? Is it the same? Do you lean one way more than the other now? I don't know. We are going to really quick close this episode out by talking a little bit about the postseason day one of the playoffs, which happened yesterday. And then we will call it there. But before we do get to that, we're going to take a short little break. So please don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Hey, the NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Okay, well, I kind of forgot that yesterday was the first day of the playoffs. I knew they were going to be starting soon. And I was like perusing Facebook and I see like, oh, look at that. There's highlights from the Cubs and Padres game. Oh, I guess that's starting now. Huh? So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that. The Cubs beat the Padres, which is what we were hoping for. Beat them 3-1. So that's very exciting. The Red Sox beat the Yankees, which I was very excited about as well. I don't know if you guys are following super close. They won 3-1 as well. In the bottom of the ninth inning, so the Yankees are hosting the Red Sox. So the Yankees are up to bat, and the first three batters, starting with Paul Goldschmidt, get back-to-back-to-back singles. So the bases are completely loaded, nobody out, and the Red Sox are leading 3-1. And then Aroldis Chapman, who gave up the 3 hits, ends up getting out of it without giving up a single run. That makes the Yankees only the second team in postseason history to load the bases with nobody out and not score a single run, which kind of makes me feel a little bit better about when we do it in the regular season. But that's okay. That's not what we're talking about. Let's all look at somebody else who's underperforming and not think about ourselves. The Tigers beat the Guardians 2-1, which I'm kind of rooting for the Guardians. I think that their story is kind of wild, but the Tigers could also beat the Guardians, and that'd be a fun story too. They get their division title ripped from them, and so they seek revenge in the playoffs. So that could be kind of fun too. But I'm kind of rooting for the Guardians there to come back and win this series. And then, unfortunately, the Reds could not get back from their huge deficit. The Dodgers scored 10 runs. The Reds managed to score 5, but had a late game rally, but were not able to catch up all the way. So the Dodgers won game 1, 10-5. So hopefully the Reds come back and win that series. We'll see. Again, I'm rooting for the Reds to beat the Dodgers, then the Reds to beat the Phillies. I'm rooting for the Cubs to beat the Padres, and then I'm blanking, and then the Brewers to beat the Cubs, and then the Brewers to beat the Reds. That's what I'm hoping for. And then I'm hoping for the Mariners to make the World Series, and then the Mariners to win it all. That's what I'm kind of rooting for right now, because it would be super cool to see Naylor and Suarez get themselves some World Series love. That would be really cool. So anyway, that is all we have for us today. That is the show. Be sure to follow us on X and Instagram at Locked On Diamondbacks. We're on YouTube and all other places you get your podcasts. If you want to see more of me, you can find more of my YouTube channels and projects at slackshack.tv. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. You guys are incredible, and I am excited to spend this off season with you guys and learn from you guys, get to know you guys, and hopefully we can grow this channel and this podcast together so that by the time the next season starts up, we can really get some excellent content and exclusive looks for you into this Diamondbacks organization. I'm beyond stoked for what we have ahead of us. For your second listen, though, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, until the World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much once again, and I will see you tomorrow.